guys, this is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and today we're in the sewing room and we are getting ready to sew up our final 12-inch chicken farm block from our chicken farm series. Now we have already made 5 of the 12-inch finished chicken blocks, and they are all centered around chicken farm theme. And if you've been following along, you have known that we have a free tutorial. We also have free cutting directions and a free layout. So if you are new to this series, go down to the description box below and you'll see a playlist, and just open up those videos and it will tell you exactly how to get the free cutting directions and the free layout. So today we are working, like I said, on our 6th one, this one right here. Have you guessed what it is? I've had a couple that have guessed correctly. So let's get on with it and let's get sewing. Today we're ready to make our 6th and final block in our chicken farm series, and here is that block. Now if you are new to this series and my channel, in the description box below you can find a playlist, and in that playlist is all the videos that contain tutorials or patterns for this quilt. There are 5 other blocks with small blocks included that go with them. So if you want to check those out, I would really be happy that you did. All of the patterns, which are the cutting directions, are embedded in the videos, so just watch for the QR code and the link. So today this is the one we're working on, and it is a chicken coop block, or maybe you call it a hen house or a chicken house, but this is the chicken coop quilt block, block number 6 in our series. Now in my last video I asked if anybody had any guesses, because I gave a little sneak peek. I gave a part of it. I think I gave kind of like this section of it over here, and I had people who were guessing it, and I believe Made by Misty and Nancy Wilcock 5887 were viewers who guessed correctly, so congratulations, great guess. And we're going to get this one made. It is not too hard, but there are a lot of pieces in this block, and as you can see I have all of my pieces cut, so there's a lot of pieces. So right here, this is the pattern that the link will take you to, and it's not the directions to make it, it's the directions to cut it out and to lay it out. And as you can see, I am using Farmer's Daughter by Lori Holt, that new fabric line, in this picture on the front of my pattern. So if you've got that line of fabric, you can use this and follow along these colors. Then inside you have your chicken coop block, and like I said, there's a lot of pieces. In fact, we have to go up to GG, and my little tiles here only go up to, let's see what they went up to, DD. So you're going to have you're going to have 3 blocks that you'll have to improvise on. So those will be EE, FF, and GG. You'll just have to use paper or something. But also, if you want these clips, which are not, I've got them on clips, but if you want these letter tiles here, these are provided in a PDF download, and I've included it on several of my videos in the beginning, but I know for sure it's on the Rooster video, so just watch the video and the link for these will also appear, and you can download that free PDF and make your own. So let's look at our pattern, and again, if you're new to my channel and you haven't seen my patterns before, they're really easy to follow. Over here I have the fabrics that you're using. We have the background, the roof. Let me show you on this one. The background, the roof. We have the door and the window trim. This trim right here. The door and the window. The siding, which is this red here. We also have the wooden base and the ladder. We have the feeder top and the feeder tray. And then we have this pinwheel. And I use this pinwheel block because not only do I think the pinwheels are really cute, but I thought it gave kind of the image of a windmill. I didn't add the base or anything because I think that would have made it kind of tricky, but I thought, let's just pretend, let's stick it there, and it kind of gives it the image of being a windmill in the background. So I thought that added some charm to it as well. So those are all of your pieces and your fabrics. Then it tells you how many of the pieces you're going to need, the size of the cut, and the letter to label it with so you can easily put them together. Then we have our layout page, and this shows where all the pieces go. Now, some of these pieces, sometimes you can look at it and piece it together, but some of these are a little tricky because they're using different techniques to piece. And so I'm going to show you how to piece this step by step. And that way, even if you're new to quilting, you can follow this tutorial and you can put this together. Now, if you followed me in the past, I always say that if you're working with tiny pieces, I suggest starching your fabric before you cut your pieces out. Now, I did not starch mine, but if I did, these right here would probably be the pieces that I starched. There's a few little squares and maybe some of this, but really, I didn't starch any of it and I didn't have any trouble. But starching helps you be more exact, and it does help make you have a more precise quilt block, and it really turns out really nice in the end. But you can do whatever you feel comfortable with there. And then this block right here, I just used different scraps that I have of Lori Holt. So all of this is Lori Holt fabric, but it's not from the Farmer's Daughter. But this was my practice block, and I just used different Lori Holt fabrics. But the one I'm making for you today is using a lot of Kim Deal fabrics and more reproductions from like the 1800s, early 1900s. So those are the fabrics that I have here. My background is more of a cream just because my decor will look better with this color in my dining room. So I am going to be piecing it together in this type of fabric. That way you can see kind of how it looks in different styles. You know, the fabric changes things so much, and so you can kind of see, you know, which way you'd prefer to have it. Okay, if we look at our pattern, we can see kind of how we can put this together. You need to look at it carefully because if you don't put it together correctly, it's going to be hard to join the pieces that you do sew together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right up here at the top, and I'm going to do this row right here. I know it's easy to think, well, let me just make my pinwheel block. But if you make your pinwheel block, it's going to be hard to piece this together. So we're just going to do this top row and piece it together. So we'll just start right here. We need an M and a W. And we are just going to lay our W like that and our M like that. And we are just going to sew those two together with the right sides together. And we're just going to sew a 1/4 inch away from that edge. Now, on this quilt, since we do have some small pieces and we're working with some intersecting seams, I do suggest that you check your 1/4 inch seam allowance and make sure it's accurate, and then don't change it anytime during this quilting process. You want to keep it the same for the whole block. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these two pieces together. And there we have that piece sewn together, and I just pressed down. I think we're going to be pressing up on these two blocks, and that will help our seams not be so bulky. Now, during this video, you might hear birds and you might hear some wind. It is a beautiful day today. It is in the 70s. We have a beautiful breeze. The birds are singing, and I have every single one of my windows, all 4 windows in my sewing room open. So I am enjoying it, and I hope you enjoy some of those sounds. I know a lot of you do comment that you love to hear the birds singing, but I do too, and my windows are open. So here's our first block right here. Now we're going to look at this one right here. Let's go ahead and do this one. We need V, L, and B. And I'll tell you what, while we're doing this one, we're going to do this one because they're kind of similar. The only thing different is they have a different background piece. This is B and this is C. So I'm going to get L, V, B, and C. And then I'm just going to set this one over here for now. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to lay this block out just the way it appears here. This one here and this one here. So the B is a rectangle and it is going long ways across like this. And C is a rectangle and it's doing the same thing, long ways across, okay? Now the first thing we're going to do is we are going to add L. So I am going to keep V right here. And you should have 2 L's and 2 V's. So on L, we are going to put this L right here, and all 3 sides should match up. If not, your cuts need to be checked. And this is B, and all 3 sides should match up. Okay, so be sure you've got that nice and accurate because it is important if you want your roof to be nice and straight to do it real accurately. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a diagonal line right here on my fabric L. And it's going to go this direction on this piece. And I do suggest, even if you have seam tape, go ahead and draw the line on this because it is important that we make this nice and straight. That will show up if it's thicker or thinner on one side. And maybe your chicken coop or your hen house is an old hen house and the roof is just a little ragged. Okay, so I've got my 2 lines and they should look like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew right on those lines. Now if you want to, you can put a little glue right here, but I'm going to keep these corners. So what I'm going to do is sew on this line and then go a 1/2 inch away and make another line. That way I'll have a half square triangle here and I won't waste that fabric. But if you need 2 pins or a little glue in each corner to hold them. Okay, so I have both pieces pressed and I went ahead, since I have shown this in many other of my videos for this series, when you have your half square triangles on the end like that, you just cut between those 2 stitches and now you have a half square triangle to add to your collection. And I'm getting quite a few, but not enough for a very big project yet. And so I did that with both corners. You don't have to, you can just throw those away if you want. But now we've got something that looks like this, but it doesn't look like this. But we still need to add piece V. So here is our V's, and I'm going to put them right sides down, right in the middle corners there, the bottom middle corner, just like that. Okay, now with the same straight edge, we're going to draw a line again. And again, you know, if you're really accurate at this, that's fine, but since this line is going to be the roof line, you may want to go ahead and draw and just follow this stitch line. So let me do both of them, and you're just going parallel with that last stitch that you made from corner to corner. Be sure you're right on those corners. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew right there, and these right here are less than 2.5 inches, so I'm not going to save these. These I'll throw away. They would be very small, and I don't want that small for my project. So go ahead and sew, and I'll be right back. And there are our pieces, and I went ahead and pressed back. So I can just cut these off, and those will just be our waist. just cut a 1/4 inch away from that seam line. All right, so there's what we have, and here's what we have here. So now our job is to sew these 3 pieces together. So on this, we want to match up this seam right here with this diagonal seam. Now they're not going to match at the top. They're going to match a 1/4 inch down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over this way because I'd rather do a 1/4 inch from a straight line going down. So let me take this pin, get one that's straight, and I'm going to guess about a 1/4 inch down, and I think it's about right there. And it is right there in that seam. That's where they should intersect if you want your roof line to be straight. Then I'm going to match my bottom edges. And since this is so close to the top and it matches, I don't have to worry about that corner. So what I'm going to do on this one, this is just a little tiny bit loose, but not much. I'll put this toward my feed dogs, and I will sew a 1/4 inch along that edge. Now on this one right here, when we go to do this one, we're going to do the same thing. I won't go, well, I guess I can go ahead and piece it on because I'll have enough room to sew. So on this one, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to match up the corners, and then on this straight line right here, the seam, we are going to go, pull it up a little bit. There we go. We're going to go a 1/4 inch down, and you can measure it if you want. I'm just going to eyeball it, and I believe it is right there. And hold on. Got my going both sides of it. You want to intersect right on that seam, and that one does right there. So it's a 1/4 inch down, and I am going to put a pin right there. Now that one looks like it matches up. This one hangs over just a little bit, so I can go ahead and put a pin right here. And then when I sew this one, and I wonder if this one right here might be a little off. That's okay, I can make this one work. It's a little loose. It does stretch out, but I'm going to put this toward my feed dogs, and it will take that in a nice little amount without having a pleat. Okay, so I'm going to do that with both pieces, and I'll bring you right back. And there we have that piece, and as you can see right here, our seams met really nicely. Now up here you're going to have a 1/4 inch where it looks kind of funny. That's going to be our seam, so don't worry about that. And as you can see, it took in that piece right there without any trouble. So there we have it, just like that. Okay, now we are now going to add the top part of our pinwheel block. So we need G, G, and A. And I'm going to go ahead and make all 4 of these half square triangles now, but I'm just going to connect 2 of them. So G, G, and A. I should have 2 of each. Actually, I have more A's because I have things that also call for A's. There's an A here, and A here. So we just need 2 of them. And then our GGs, we have 2 of those. So we are just going to make 2 at a time half square triangles, put these 2 together like so, right sides together. And then if you have seam tape, you can use your seam tape. If not, go ahead and draw a diagonal line. And I've oversized these just a hair, so you don't have to be perfect. And we're just going to go and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of this line this time. This is not your stitch line. This is the center seam allowance. We're going to stitch on this side a 1/4 inch and on this side a 1/4 inch. All right, and I just chain piece those so they go through real quickly. And what we want to do now is just cut down the middle of those two seams, which is right on that line, and you don't have to be exact. That is just your seam allowance. Now, in my other videos in this series, I talk about different methods of trimming down your half square triangles, and I'm just going to use my Quilt in a Day 4.5 inch trial square up ruler. If you're interested in this, I do have a link in my description box, and you can go there to get this. There's different sizes, and some of them even have the slots where you cut the dog ears off, but I find that I just prefer to have just the regular straight edge, and then I can trim those dog ears off a little easier on my own. Now I am trimming these down to 2.5 inches, so be sure you take note of that. And the reason I like this is because I only have to trim 2 sides, and I don't have to have them pressed open yet. And it's very accurate. Okay. But you don't have to have this ruler in order to trim down your half square triangles. You can just use a regular square triangle or a regular square ruler. And like I said, watch my other videos if you want to make those blocks, and I go into more detail. Now I have my half square triangles, and they are the right size. They should match up with this strip. Now I do have my dog ears on there, so I just take my rotary cutter and go at an angle, but I do not cross over that seam. And I just like doing this instead of putting my blade into the slots of the other cutters. And you can also just take scissors, and once you press them open, trim them off. Okay. I will press these open and be right back. And there we have them, all nicely pressed, and I press toward the dark. I would suggest pressing all of them toward the same thing, either the lights or all toward the darks. So now what we're going to do is we're going to follow this pattern here, and this one shows it going like this, and then this other one, we need to go like this. Okay, so I'm going to sew these two together first, right sides together. These should nest really nicely, and they do. And so I'm going to sew 1/4 inch there, and then what I'm going to do is come back and I'm going to open it up. I'm going to put right sides together here. There's no seams to match up, and I am going to sew 1/4 inch here, and so we will have a nice long strip, and we will have this top strip right here finished. We have that whole section finished, and I think it looks really nice. So let's just scoot this aside and take a look at our pattern layout. So I'm just going to show you right here with these lines. We've got this completed. Now let's just go over here and let's do this section here. Okay, this one right there. And so we've already got these two right here because those were the other 2 half square triangles. We now need a K and an N. All right, and here's our K and here's our N, and this is a really small piece, so just you want to be pretty accurate when you're stitching this one. This is going to go in the lower right hand corner right there, and we're going to put a diagonal line from corner to corner on in. And if you have the seam tape, you can use that. All right, So I'm going to sew that right on the line. And if you need to, and I'm going to do that, I'm going to put just a little bit of glue in that corner right there because that's just going to be waste. It's going to be trimmed off. And I'm just going to hold that in place because a pin would make it kind of bulky right there. Okay, I'm going to sew right on that line. And I have folded it back and it covers up that back portion. Now I just need to trim off that corner and just leave a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So there we have that piece. Now let's just go ahead and take our 3 other pieces, and let me put it so you can see here. We are going to have this one go like that, this one go like that, and this one go like that. And we're going to sew these 3 pieces together again, just like that, right sides together. These will nest right here, so you'll have a nice nest right there. And then I'll be bringing you right back. And there we have that section right here. Now I did press the opposite way than I did on this seam. That way these 2 are going to nest. So this one is going this way and this one is going this way. And this one right here, let's see if we're meeting on that one. Yeah. And this one right here is going this way and this one's going that way. So they'll nest too. Just kind of keep an eye on that. That way you can have nice nesting seams. A lot of times you can change it before you sew it together, but sometimes you can't. Now let's go down here. We have this section. Now let's get this section. And here we need D, O, and X. And it is the same way that we did this block and this block. We're going to start with D. And we're going to lay it out just like that. Then we've got X right here, and it is also a rectangle, okay? So on this rectangle, it is actually not the same as this piece up here because we're going to do this one a little differently. I just realized that. I forgot. Okay, on this one, instead, since this is not a square and we can't do this angle on this piece, we're going to take this one and we are going to turn this piece where it's a rectangle and the long way is going up and down. Okay, and let's see, we need to make this one go this way. We're going to put it so that the bottom is matching the edge and so is the side, because when we draw our angle, we want this one to fold that way. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I am going to mark, let me move this one out of the way here. If we look right here, this is the back, this is that piece in the background, this is D, and that is where I want to mark my O piece. This is O. And I want to mark it there. And then I'm going to go down here in this corner right here. This is our corner that we're going to meet to. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take and draw a vertical line, or I'm sorry, a diagonal line going from point to point. Okay, so you can see that this is not the corner up here, it's down. It's to where this edge right here is. Okay, now I'm going to take this to my sewing machine, and this one I can go ahead and keep a half square triangle, and I will. So I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch away from it as well. So sew on this line, and then if you want a half square triangle, sew a 1/2 inch away parallel. Okay, now this time when you fold this piece back, you want to make sure that it is going straight. So this piece right here is nice and straight. If not, take out your stitches and try again. We don't want it wobbly because again, this is going to be our roof line and we want it to be nice and straight. So we've got this, and I sewed a line 1/4 or 1/2 inch away so I can cut mine right there. Okay, and I've got my half square triangle right there, and I've got this piece. Now on this next piece, it's the same thing. This is a square, And so this piece can go directly on top. You need to iron it though. Right there. And it matches all three sides. So be sure it matches up nicely. Then we're going to go the same direction. We're going to go parallel with that last seam. And we're going to draw a line and stitch right on this line. And again, this is at least a 2.5 inch. It's actually a 3-inch piece, so I'm going to be going a 1/2 inch away and having a half square triangle. So if you need to put pins in it, go ahead and do that. And there we have this piece all sewn, and now I just need to cut a quarter, or actually I just need to cut between those two seam lines. And there's my half square triangle and my piece that I need. So now we have this section. So what we can do now is take these two pieces and sew them together. Now, right now, when you look at this, you're saying that does not match up. What did I do? You've not done anything, because remember, we've got to go 1/4 inch down, and they should match up 1/4 inch away from that cut edge. So we put right sides together, and I like to go ahead and pin on this corner right here. Just line it up, make sure it's matching, and over here on this corner, and then we're going to check and see where they meet. So I like to use the edge. Let's see if we have one. So both of these are at an angle, which is okay. We just need to go down 1/4 inch and see where we land on this diagonal. So if I go straight down from this edge, whoops, let's see if you can see that stitch there. Maybe if I do it on this side. No, that's light too. If I go straight down from this edge and go 1/4 inch, where do I meet? Let me go down over here. I don't think I had it 1/4 inch. Right there, I think. And right on it. Okay, so right there is where we want to stitch. Okay, and if you need to put any other pins in, you can. I'll just pin it right here so this seam allowance doesn't flip back on me. And I'm going to sew 1/4 inch away from that edge. And there we have that piece, and if you look right there, you can see that we match that nicely. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Mine really did nicely though, but it won't show up too much once you get it quilted and stuff if it's off a little bit. Now this is our 1/4 inch seam right here, so once that's sewn, that will disappear. Okay, so this is going to go like that, but we can't add that yet because we still have to have this piece here. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to just build this right here, which is a real simple one. It is A and X. Now we have used these two cuts before, A up here and X right here, but we had several of each because there's several A's and several X's. So we're going to take these two and we're going to make sure we have the background A here and the siding X here, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch away from that edge. And there we have this one. And on this one, let's see, we're going to be matching it right here. And so these seams are going to match 1/4 inch down. And so this seam is going this way and I pressed this way. Normally I press toward the dark unless it's got to fit or nest. So I press toward the background here. So now let's put these two together and we can do that. And I'm going to put a pin on both ends. Then we're going to match that diagonal seam and that vertical seam. So I'm going to look at the vertical seam side because that is easier to guess 1/4 inch down. And so right there is about a 1/4 inch. I'm going to push it right through, and it does land right on that vertical seam or right next to it, close enough. I'm going to sew right there. So a 1/4 inch away from this edge. And that one matched up really nicely right there in that corner, so that looks good. I also forgot a while ago, we were sewing right next to a point. So if you're working on keeping your points, you might watch those points while you're sewing. Just as you're stitching, try to avoid that intersection right there. If you need to go up just a little bit to avoid it, you can, and that will keep it straight, but that one looked good. So let's put this the right way. So there we have that section. So now we have the top section and this side section. Let's go ahead and work this middle section right here. And this middle section, we're going to start with the door and the window. So we need T and U. We also need R and Q and S. Okay, so if we start with the window, we're going to put Q's on first. No, we're going to put R's on first. Let's try that. R's on first. So that's going to go on that side, top, and this side, bottom. We're going to stitch here, we're going to stitch here, and then on this one, it's going to go at the top of the door. And we're going to stitch here. So put pins in if you need to. Make sure that you are matching the edges so that you get a nice straight piece, and I'll bring you right back. And those pieces are sewn on and pressed. Now we need our S for the door. So we have 2 S's. They are going to go right here and right here. Just make sure they're all matching those edges. And then we have Q for the window. We have 2 of them for the left and right side of the window. Right here and right here. Make sure right sides are together. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch on all of those edges. And there we have our window and our door. So now we need the piece Z to go between them. So this is easy. Just sew this one right sides together, then put this one right sides together, and we'll have all 3 pieces sewn together. And there we have the window and the door sewn together, and now we need these side pieces Y. And we have 2 long strips, and we need to put one here and one here. And remember, if they're not matching up exactly, because there are quite a few seams in there, just put pins on both ends and put whatever side of the fabric is loose toward your feed dogs. So a 1/4 inch away. And there we have that piece right there. So let's go ahead and sew these 2 together. And on these 2, we don't have any seams matching, so that is so nice. Just match up your ends. And if you have one side that's looser than the other, just make that the one that faces your feed dogs. Have it down. And sew a 1/4 inch away from this edge. And there we have our piece. And remember, we had that 1/4 inch over here that looked kind of funny. It matched up really nicely right there. So we can't sew these together yet because we still have a piece over here we need to put together. So let's get E, P, and X. We're going to do this section now. Okay, so this is E. Let me just move that up. E, and then P is going to go at the bottom. and it should have 3 sides matching just like this. Make sure they're all matched up, and we need to make a vertical or a diagonal line going this direction from corner to corner. And I'm going to go sew right on that line. And also this is a big piece, so I'm going to go ahead and keep this half square triangle, so I'll scoot down and sew a 1/2 inch away from that seam. Okay, so there is that piece. I just need to cut between my 2 stitches, and I've got a nice big half square triangle right there, and we've got this piece here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our X piece and we are going to put it in this bottom left hand corner, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw a line from corner to corner. And before I forget, I just want to thank everyone also for their kind words and checking on me about my back. It is doing a lot better. It's not completely 100% yet. It still gets pretty stiff. I do stand up to do a lot of my sewing. My sewing machine is up high, and so that helps me sew. And I've done that for many years, especially with doing the videos. So it's just I'm going a little slower these days, so it takes a little longer to get things done, but I think I'll be up to par before too long. So I've got my diagonal line. I'm going to sew directly on that line. And there we have that piece. I just need to cut my half square triangle off. And that one's good. So that one's going to be over here. We have X and I believe that's an I. Yes, that's an I. X and I. And this is a simple block. And again, I need to press that, don't I? Let's just use this side. I is going to go right next to X. So we're just going to sew a 1/4 inch along that edge. And now we have that piece. Let's pull this down a little bit here. Okay. So we're just about with the coop itself finished. So let's take this piece and connect it to this piece by putting this on the right sides together. And again, you are going to have this seam right here matching this seam right here. And again, it's going to be matching a 1/4 inch down. So you can use that pin method that I shared with you. Let's do it on this side with the vertical seam. That looks good. So I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away from that edge. Pause the video now and either scan the QR code or write down the link and type that into your browser. And there's that piece. And now we can attach this piece to this piece. So let's just do that. No seams to match up. Let's just sew a 1/4 inch away from that edge. And there we have that piece. Isn't it looking cute? We can go ahead and attach these two now if we want to. Let's just go ahead and do that. So since we alternated the direction of our seams, our seam allowance here, these seams right here nest. And these seams nest. So we're going to match up our seams that are supposed to meet. Now these seams right here, we have another diagonal with the straight one, and we'll set that one in just a second. I'm going to go over here and put this in, and I'll look at it from this side. Okay, so this one right here, this vertical seam, we need to go 1/4 inch down, and it should match. Let me pull this up a little bit. There it is. And then this seam right here, cut that thread. This one right here should also meet at 1/4 inch down. And that looks good too. So now I just need to sew 1/4 inch away, and I don't think there's anything else I need to be aware of. Looks good. And there we have all of those pieces put together. And I did open up my seam for this seam right here because we do have a lot of seams coming together there and over here, so it gets pretty thick. And so that way it'll kind of spread that thickness out. Well, now we're ready for the bottom portion, and this is our wooden base, stilts, and ladder. So let's just get started on the B's and the A's. And these are actually BB. It's like, where are my B's? I've already used them. So we need to have one of the BBs on this side and one on this side. So we're just going to sew those 1/4 inch away from the edge. And we have it like this. So I just press toward the dark. It doesn't matter which direction you press it. No seams are matching with it. Now we need the CC to go here and here. So again, 1/4 inch away from that edge. And there we have that. Now we need this little section here with J's and DD's. We have 3 J's and 2 DD's. So we're just going to lay them out the way they're going to be placed, and then we'll just sew them with right sides together. So this is the way it's going to look, just like that. And so we can just do right sides together, and I usually start at the top and the bottom. That way I can get kind of a chain going, and then this one will go in between. So 1/4 inch away from those edges. And there we have that section finished, and I just pressed them all in one direction. I just sewed them together and then gave them a press in one direction. There are no seams that are meeting with that. Now we just need to match that up right there. So I'm going to sew this one right here 1/4 inch away from the edge, and then do the same thing with this one. Okay, so when I bring you back, I'll have these 3 pieces sewed together. And there we have that. And we're still going to add AA up here, so it doesn't matter which direction you press, whichever way works best for you. So let's go ahead and get AA, and we are going to put it right here. Now, since this is a pretty long stretch, I usually put pins on these pieces at each end and one in the middle. That way, if one of my fabrics is looser, then I can put those toward my feed dogs. And usually with one piece having a whole lot of seams in it and the other not having any, there will be a little bit of difference. So let's see here. My back piece right here, this looks to be a little bit looser. So let me lay that so it's evenly distributed. And this, I keep poking myself, ouch. This piece back here will go down toward my feed dog, so I'll sew like that. There we go. And I just press toward this AA piece because there's no seams in that. So there's how that one's going to go, but we can't add it just yet because we've got our final block down here to do, and that's our feeder. And that feeder needs EE and H and H. So here is EE. And we have a couple H's. We have 4 H's, so we're going to use 2 for the top here. They both go in the corners. This is going to be going long way up and down. And if you need to, go ahead and draw your lines, and they would be going like this. Also, since these are small, I usually put a dab of glue in the corner. I'm going to use my seam tape for these since these are so small. It will be easy to use. If you're wondering what I mean by seam tape, it is a tape, and I use the Cluck Cluck Sew seam tape, and I'll try to remember to put a link in the description box below. I think I might already have it on my Fat Quarter Shop site there at the bottom in the description box. So I'm going to sew a line right there diagonally on both of those squares. And there we have that. I went ahead and trimmed off my back corners, pressed it back, and it looks good. Now let's get the sides, and we need a G and a G right there. This one's going to go here, and this one's going to go here, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on both sides. And there's what that looks like, and we're on our bottom piece of this, and that is FF, and we still need H and H. Oh, and I just realized I have another piece of fabric on my board because we have this little F right here. So we're going to be adding this one over here. So I will set that right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this one. I've put the H's in each of the corners of FF, and they should line up with the 3 sides. And this line is going to go, again, you don't have to use the line if you have the seam tape. It's going to go like that. And the other one's going to go this way. So let's just put a little glue in those corners to hold them down while we sew. And you could really use any kind of glue because you're cutting that off anyway. But Elmer's school glue is washable. It washes out. Plus, it just dries clear. So I'm going to sew on those lines and a diagonal right here, and I'll be right back. And there we have it. I've pressed them back. Trim off that back corner. And now those are going to go just like that. So I'm going to put this here, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from that top edge. And there we have that piece sewn on, and you can press in any direction. I just press down. So now we need to connect these two, so it's going to be right sides together. And then I'm going to also at the same time connect these two. So again, right sides together. And I'll sew on both edges there. And there we have those sections on, and I just press them to one direction. And actually, let's see if I did this one right. Yep, I pressed that one, so it's going to nest. So that's going to need to nest. This one's pressed so it can nest. And those are the only 2 we need to worry about. So let's just put these right here. That one needs to be pressed a little bit better. And let's nest those seams right there. And nest these seams right here. And then match up our ends. So we are going to sew our final seam on this block 1/4 inch away from that edge. And there is our 6th and final block from our chicken farm series, and I think it turned out really cute. I really like this one. I hope you have been sewing along with me, and if you have, you know that I'm not turning mine into a quilt. As I have said at the beginning of this, this is not going to be for a quilt. I'm doing these to make placemats with, and I think these will turn out really cute. I'm going to be making 6 placemats, and I chose this more traditional or reproduction fabric for mine since it coordinates better in the area that we'll be using them in. And again, this was Kim Deal and other designers that are similar to hers, just that reproduction from the 1800s, early 1900s, and I think they turned out cute. And here is how my layout is for my placemats. For each of my 12-inch blocks, I also shared with you I guess those are 4-inch blocks, and that way you were able to do something like this as well. The hen had the chicks. The basket had the eggs. The rooster had the chicken prints or chicken tracks. The waterer had the shoe fly blocks. And my last block that I made before this one was the feed sack, and I have still not gotten this one. I'm going to put the word feed here, and then these corn blocks are the ones that I will be using for my sides. So that'll be put together here soon. I did show in a previous video how to piece these placemats, and I gave you the cutting directions in the video. And so if you want to make something similar to this, just watch that video. Again, it's in the playlist in the description box below. Then, of course, this one right here, I am going to use this block right here for my 3 side blocks, and this is our pinwheel block, and it is the right measurement and the right size for that, so that will be perfect. But I think all of these are going so nicely together. I'm really happy with it. And you can use these blocks for bags, for pot holders, for casserole mats, for sink or dish mats. There are lots of uses for blocks, and just use them to embellish other things. And I think they all turned out so cute. I use the same background in all of them just to kind of keep them pulled together, but of course I pulled different fabrics in those same tones. But this was a really fun sew along. I hope you enjoyed it too. I hope you're putting your blocks to good use, and I'd love to see your blocks. So if you'd like to share your blocks, you can put them on Instagram, and I am at Blue Rooster Farm 23. Also on Facebook, if you just find the video link in on my page that has the certain block. If you want to share a certain block, you can, and just put it in the comments below. You can share pictures in there. But I hope that you enjoyed this, and I sure did, and I hope you get to make these for yourself. So if you've enjoyed this video and these tutorials, I hope that you consider subscribing if you're not subscribed already. That would help my channel, but actually more than subscribing, Liking this video, just clicking on the thumbs up icon, will help my video be pushed out more. Also, commenting. Any comments helps to let the algorithms of YouTube know that you are engaged and watching, and it lets them know that it's well liked. But any of those things I really appreciate. And please share this video. Just click the share button at the bottom. There's a little arrow. And when you do that, you can put it on any of your social platforms and share it through there. And that would be real helpful as well. So thanks again for watching, and I hope that you have a great week, are able to get outside and enjoy this beautiful weather and this time of year. I hope you're getting out and planting and gardening, enjoying it. And again, I hope to see you back here next time. Bye-bye.